work that I do is at the intersection mostly of HIV and faith, HIV and different religions. Now, objectives for today, we want to make sure that you all can give your clients baseline information about common sexually transmitted infections. That's what STIs are. You all might know them as sexually transmitted diseases, but we call them infections because infections tend to be more inclusive. They include more things than just diseases. We want you all to be able to provide a brief overview of HIV and AIDS, clear up some common misconceptions about HIV, like how it's transmitted, how people can get it, and then help clients understand the importance of regular annual health checkups, including sexually transmitted infection screenings.
Good.
So men's sexual health. It's something that we don't prioritize as healthcare providers, as communities. I'm a father, I got daughters. I got 2 daughters. And one of them 17, one of them's 10, about to be 11. And my daughters pay more attention to their health than a lot of grown men do because they start having a cycle at some point. And they have their cycle, and we have to have conversations with them about what that means, about how their bodies are changing, about how it's a natural process, but it also means that they can potentially conceive and make another child, right? And so from a very early on, young girls are taught to pay attention to their bodies. They're taught to understand what's going on with them. As a result of that, they're taught to engage the healthcare system at an earlier phase than young guys and young men. And it really progresses into our adulthood. I don't know about y'all, but when I was a young boy, unless you played sports, you didn't really think about your health. And the only reason why you thought about it when you played sports is because you had to get a physical in order to play the sport, right? And so people don't really prioritize men's and boys' health in general. We really don't prioritize men's sexual health. When you hear people talking about sexual and reproductive health, it's usually always about women, and rightfully so. And I can tell you right now, if you quickly Google probably men's sexual health, the top results probably will be about how men can support women in their sexual health. But we got sexual health too, right? We got a reproductive health too, right? And so we want to talk a bit about what men's sexual health is. That is not just the absence of disease, all right? We're not just talking about health instead, you ain't sick. But it's this also psychological and social component to where we want to make sure that not only are we absent of disease, but we're also emotionally healthy because our emotional wellness plays a role in our sexual health wellness, but also that we are socially healthy, that we have good relationships with each other, that we have good relationships with our partners, that we can communicate well. So this is all encompassing of men's sexual health. Don't let anybody ever tell you that your sexual health begins and ends with your dick, because it's just not true, right? And if you have a healthcare provider who treats it like that, get another healthcare provider. But some of the common issues when we think about men's sexual health, erectile dysfunction is very real, especially as we get older. And there's a number of different things that can cause erectile dysfunction, from your arteries and your heart health, but also your emotional health, right? Low libido, that's your sex drive, right? Maybe you don't have a healthy sex drive and you're not quite sure why. Some of those things I mentioned before about heart health, but also just about your mental health plays a role into that. Anxiety and depression can relate to sexual performance. Something I don't have listed here, but it's very real, male infertility. My wife and I, like I said, I got 2 kids, I got girls. I'm 41 years old. I'm still trying to get a boy out of the deal. And so we've been doing fertility stuff. And a part of the fertility process was I had to go in and shoot in a cup. And they tell me, if my guy's still swimming, right? And so I'm 79%. And so that's good for my age, right? But some people have infertility issues. And when we think about infertility, it's usually only women we talk about because they carry the children, the birth of people. But it takes 2 to make a baby, right? So male infertility is a part of our sexual health as well. And then, of course, sexually transmitted infections. And this is what we really want to focus today's conversation on, since we're talking about this in the context of HIV and AIDS. So A sexually transmitted infection is an infection transmitted through sexual contact. These are the most common STIs, and it's just a little cartoon of what the cells look like if you look at them under a microscope, right? But these are all the most common STIs: chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis. HPV is the most common STI that exists. Pretty much probably all of us have had HPV and didn't know it. There's no treatment for it, but our bodies use it naturally clear. Herpes, simplex virus, and then of course, HIV. The symptoms vary by infection, but most of them are characterized by these sores or these warts, maybe discharge from your penis, pain, itching. But a lot of these STIs are also asymptomatic, which is again why we could potentially have them and never know it. We could potentially have them and maybe pass them on to our partner. And so we're gonna talk a bit about understanding STIs a little bit more and how we prevent them. When we're talking about HIV now, we've moved into this realm of medical prevention, biomedical prevention. Y'all are gonna hear about PrEP a little later, pre-exposure prophylaxis, but I know y'all got a cursory understanding of what PrEP is. But still to this day, the best way to prevent a STI is a condom, because it's the most accessible, it's the cheapest. The issue is we don't be using condoms right. And again, it goes back to that sexual health education that we did receive as young boys and young men. And so one of the key prevention strategies is consistent and correct use of condoms. I put these magnums right here because another thing is we go out and we go get these big condoms because we trying to, communicate to our partner that, we hold it or whatever. Man, that condom be baggy as all get out or whatnot. A baggy condom not gonna protect you the same way that a condom that fits your size is gonna protect you. And so part of that is the correct use of condoms. But also limiting your partner. If you got a single partner, making sure that both of y'all know each other's status. Reducing the number of sexual partners you have. Avoid sharing needles. We know that blood-to-blood transmission is a way that STIs can be transmitted. And then regular STI screening. We got vaccinations here also, and really this is one of the newer prevention strategies. Human papilloma virus, which I mentioned as the most common STI, there's a vaccine for it now. Now, to be clear, there are like more than 100 different strains of HPV. Most of them, like I say, we exposed to, we clear them, we don't even know it. Don't make us sick. We can still pass it to other people. No treatment for it. But there are a few strains of HPV that could lead to like cervical cancer in women. And as a result of that, a vaccine was developed like in the last 10 years. The brand name of it is Gardasil. But essentially it's available for kids because the idea is to get your kids vaccinated before they have their first sexual exposure. And so the recommendation is somewhere between 9 and 11 years old over the course of 2 or 3 shots. But if you was in a group and you missed it because it came out and you was 16 or whatever, the recommendation is still to get the HPV vaccine up until the age of 26. After you're 26 or older, you're not gonna hear anybody trying to tell you to go and hit the HPV vaccine unless you're immunocompromised, maybe you have cancer or you have something else that's suppressing your immune system. But there's a vaccination available for an STI and HPV. Shocking. So screening, when should you get screened? So this is the CDC's recommendation of who and when they should get screened. And what you'll notice here, there isn't any recommendation for men who have sex with women. And that's because technically there's not a whole lot of evidence that suggests that men who have sex with women need to be frequently getting STI screening outside of a certain age. Teenagers, ages 16 to 21, they got all the STDs right now. And so the recommendation is if you're a young guy, have sex with women under the age of 21, you should get screened for STIs. But by and large, priorities don't really prioritize the screening of heterosexual men. You can see the recommendations for women pregnant women, as men who have sex with men, kids. But this is why we need to get screened regardless of what these guidelines say, as black people. Black and African American people account for 31% of all cases of chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. This is in 2022. 31%, we only make up 12 to 13% of the population, right? So that means we're overrepresented in these STIs. Black men and women had the highest rate of chlamydia in 2022. Black men had the highest rate of gonorrhea and syphilis. And black men and women had the highest rate of HIV. And so regardless of who you laying down with, men, women, otherwise, if you're a black person in our country, you need to be regularly getting screened for STIs because of these statistics. So if I go get screened, if I go get tested, when should I get tested? So, and y'all got these in your Bible, but a lot of these STIs have what we call latent incubation periods. And so you're exposed to it, and now your body is responding to it, but there are low levels of the infection in your body that a test can't necessarily pick up on it. And so this is the general timeline for when you should probably be getting screened for these specific STIs after exposure. And so you'll see a lot of them, the incubation time is 2 weeks. And so if you feel like you had a counter, man, I might have been exposed to something, probably need to wait at least 2 weeks before you go and try to get tested. Otherwise, it's not gonna show up. And then you'll have this false sense of everything is cool because my test came back, right? You see syphilis and herpes have a much longer latency period of almost a month before you should get tested. But again, as it relates to where you all are located and the clientele that you all are engaged, we in Tennessee, Tennessee was ranked 12th in the country in chlamydia rates, 11th in gonorrhea, 24th in syphilis, 15th in HIV. And then if you break it down by city, Memphis is ranked second in STI rates. It was first last year. Philadelphia surpassed it this year. And so Memphis second, Nashville 27th, Knoxville is 31st, and Chattanooga was 68th. All of the cities in the country, right? This is y'all market. And so this is why this information is particularly important for you all because of where we are and the populations who you are. So now, it's a number of different ways that you can get tested without ever having to go into a healthcare facility. And I think this is a good thing about biomedical science and where we've gone. You can pick up these complete STD tests in a Walgreens or a CVS, and it'll test all of the kind of the 8 most prevalent STIs that are available in one test. For gonorrhea and chlamydia and trichomonas, you can do just a piss test. For syphilis and hepatitis and HIV, it's a blood spot test. But essentially, you pick these up, you follow the directions, you do them in your home, and then they give you instructions about where to mail off the test to. The tests get mailed to the same laboratories that doctors and hospitals use. And in 2 to 3 days, you can look up online what your result is. And so this allows discretion. It saves you a little cheese, even though these tests can be upwards of $60 as it does all these things. And then if you come back with a positive result, there's built-in consultation. And so there's a telehealth healthcare provider that can say, okay, this is your result. This is how we should move forward next. So lots of available options for STI testing without you having insurance or without you having to access a healthcare facility. All right, so we're gonna transition to the HIV and AIDS, so we're gonna do this expeditiously, because I know y'all already got a pretty good background about HIV. And so at its basic level, HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, and that just means that you can only get it from humans, either human blood, human body fluids. It affects the immune system, making it to fight off disease and infection, and its survival depends on cells and the host. So we're the host. That means HIV can't survive outside of the host, right? And so HIV on the table or on your clippers or stuff like that, it don't work like that. There are some viruses that are not STIs that can survive for weeks outside of the virus. HIV is outside of the body. HIV is the ones. And then AIDS. which is acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Again, acquired means you gotta get it from someone. It affects the immune system, which is a collection of cells and substances that act like soldiers against germs. It weakens the immune system, causing what we call opportunistic infections, stuff that we encounter on a daily basis that our normal, healthy immune systems combat, so we don't even have to deal with, right? Because HIV can transition to an AIDS diagnosis. It suppresses the immune system's ability to be able to defend those normal things that we don't even think about. And it results in these collection of symptoms and illnesses. And so you all know how HIV can be transmitted. You probably got information about you can't transmit via oral sex. Theoretically, you can. There's very low risk, right? We're talking about, having open and exposed, blood in the mouth, things like that. But these are the ways that HIV can be acquired. And you'll note that we're talking about people with uncontrolled HIV. I know y'all have heard about U=U, and I'll touch on it a little bit more, but we've got medications now that if people living with HIV have access to those medications, they're taking them appropriately. So level of HIV in their body is so low that it can't be picked up by a traditional test, but also we know that it can't be transmitted to other people via the sex. And so that's why we say uncontrolled HIV, people who have HIV who aren't necessarily on the medications that keep their HIV in check. Needle sharing, pregnancy, birth, or breastfeeding, birth of people with living with uncontrolled HIV. And so we got some countries in the world that have eliminated what we call vertical transmission. That's from birth in person to baby. I'm using that language intentionally and not saying mothers or pregnant women, because we have a lot of gender and identity diversity. You got trans men who carry children, who give birth to children. And so, birth to people. And birth to people can be living with HIV and be receiving treatment and have their virus suppressed and give birth to a healthy baby that's not living with HIV. There's still a possibility of them transmitted via breastfeeding, and if their HIV is uncontrolled. So these are the ways that you can transmit HIV. And it's through these bodily fluids, semen, blood, vaginal fluid, rectal fluid, breast milk. Pre-com is another one. These are the ways you can't acquire HIV. And I know y'all know this because I saw y'all's pre-test. And so y'all already got that information. Y'all got a good handle on this. But the bottom line is you can't get HIV from casual contact, right?
Right. Oh,
There you go. These are the stages of HIV. And what I want to really emphasize here is that, how sometimes we say full-blown AIDS, and technically that's not really correct terminology. AIDS is just stage 3 HIV. And so HIV has different stages based on if a person is or isn't receiving the proper treatment. And this is what a person without HIV's immune system looks like. These are healthy white blood cells. And then you see HIV comes in the picture rapidly, impacting the immune system very fast. And then the immune system gets a hold on it and be like, hold up, this ain't right. And so let me start working on this. And so then the amount of HIV decreases, but it's still there. We call that chronic HIV infection. But if you don't get medication to continue to help the immune system keep HIV in check, this is essentially what's going to happen when you have more copies of the HIV virus in your body than you do of normal white blood cells, normal immune cells. Now, HIV overcomes you. And we call that AIDS, which is straight stage 3 HIV, where it destroys the immune system such that somebody sneeze on you, that normally wouldn't have no effect on you, but you don't have any defenses, that might take you out. And so that's what we characterize as the next stage. And again, number of different modalities we get tested for HIV. Pretty much free anywhere in the country. You can get a free HIV test somewhere, but you can also do it at home now. You can pick this up at your local Walgreens or CVS. And this isn't something where you have to send it off to a lab. This is where you can get a result in your home within 20 minutes. And then if the result is positive, the recommendation is, okay, now I got to go follow up at an actual healthcare facility where they can give me the actual blood tests to confirm whether or not this is a true test. For us, we should get tested annually as part of our routine health care. More frequently if you're in one of those populations that we consider high risk. I can tell you personally, I've been married for a lot of years at this point. Because I got a set of failure. But every time I go in for my annual, I say give me a full kind of STD test. And it's not because I feel some kind of way about my wife or my marriage, but it's a habit thing for me. This is what I do professionally. And so I can't come in here and talk to y'all about annual screenings or whatever and not be living up to that myself, right? And so even when I got married, I didn't want to get in a position to where, I don't need to do that anymore. And so I have a healthcare provider who understands that. And so when I ask to get the full STI panel, she orders it. She doesn't argue with me. But she might go into a healthcare setting where they were like, you parent or you this, you don't need to do that. And that happens a lot. We're like, nah, I need to do this for my own peace of mind. I need to do it for my clients so I can be an example and be like, hey, every year I go in and I get these tests for peace of mind. That's my recommendation for you all as well. You're going to hear more about the treatments that are available for HIV. I just want to say that we've moved from a place where people were taking 20, and I know some people who took double this amount of pills on a daily basis, people who live with HIV, to a day where you can get multiple drugs in one pill. So we really come a long way. And even now we've got people receiving HIV through injections every 2 months, right? And so they don't even have to take a pill no more. They go in, they get a shot, that shot covers them 2 months, they go back in and get another shot. So we're working on the shot where people just need to take half a year, every 6 months, right? So we come a long way. People can live healthy their whole lives, be undetectable, and not transmitted to their loved ones because they're on that medication. The virus is so low in their blood. They're healthy and they keep their loved ones healthy. Yes. Living with HIV. This is Dr. Daniel Drifter. He's my colleague. He's a person living with HIV, healthy, happy. We work together at the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. But I wanted to give you this image because 20 years ago it would have been a skinny, emaciated person or whatever. But this is the face of HIV. People who adhere to their antiretroviral medication, people who have regular checkups, they eating well, they working out, they also keeping their mind healthy, they got a good community around them, and they staying educated up on the information like y'all are. You might not be living with HIV, but these are all things, minus the adherence to ART, if you take other medications they adhere to. These are all the things that we should be adhering to as men just to stay healthy in general, right? Because adhering to this helps us sexually, it also helps us mentally and emotionally, helps us to be better professionals, helps us to be better fathers, husbands, brothers, uncles, friends, and otherwise, and helps us to be able to create this community of wellness for men, for black men that hasn't previously existed. In closing, I hope you all take away the importance of sexual health education and prevention practices. I hope you all have a better understanding of how to prevent these common STIs, and that you have a comprehensive knowledge not only of HIV, prevention, testing, and treatment, but really also just the importance of overall health, eating well, going to the doctor at least once a year, making sure you pay attention to your body. Okay. So I appreciate y'all. And kind of 5 minutes over, but we got some fleeting questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll be around throughout the day, and we can wrap.